Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another craft corner. This month our craft is going to be looking at all sorts of things with butterflies, caterpillars, butterflies, flowers. Oh, it's almost as if spring is on its way, right? Now, we read during our story time with Zeus a few weeks ago the book called Beautiful Bones and Butterflies, and it was a book all about conversion. So if you didn't read this story with me, I put the video link in the description below so that you can watch it. But this story ends by saying, "Thank you, God, for changing my heart and making me more like you. Don't stop, God. Don't stop making miracles inside of me." You know, our caterpillar goes through a process called metamorphosis. Isn't that a big word? Metamorphosis. And it changes into a butterfly. And in that process, we learn a little bit about what God does inside of our hearts, right? When we say, "Jesus, I want you to live in my heart," He wants to change us from the inside out so that we're more and more like Him. So let's do some crafts today that have to do with caterpillars, butterflies, flowers, spring, all while thinking that the transformation that a butterfly goes through is a picture of what God wants to do in our hearts. So our first craft that we're going to do together here has to do with a coffee filter again. All right, so we did these before, but we're going to make something different with them. So we spread out our coffee filter. Last time when we used these, we made a sun catcher. This time, though, we're making a butterfly. So we want to spread it out, and then I'm just going to grab some markers, just some plain old markers, and I want you to think of some colors you want to pick. And we want to think about our color wheel again, our hot, our cold colors, or our warm and cool colors, because think about it, when our colors mix together, we just don't want to end up with brown. And that can happen sometimes when we use too many different colors all at once. They end up mixing into brown. So then you're just going to make a design here. You're going to make a design with your colors. And you're going to fill it in. And it doesn't, every little bit doesn't have to be filled in, but I could do squiggles. I could do a whole pattern. It is up to you. You could decorate each one special. Maybe I'm going to put some stars. Our coffee filters are a little fragile, so we just want to be careful. I don't want to tear it. All right. So then, once you've got a design on there, you're going to take some water. So I've got water just in a spray bottle, but I've got it on my tray. And I'm just going to spray it with some water, and look at what's happening to my colors. It's going to start spreading, isn't it? It's going to start spreading. And the more water you put on, the more it'll end up kind of spreading. As we move it around, you can see my color is kind of dripping. And we're going to kind of let it spread around. And then we got to let it dry. So you can dry it with a hair dryer with an adult's help. You can just set them out to dry, up to you. But what's going to happen is you want to make 2 of these that have the same colors to them. So I would make another one that had purple, blue, and pink, right? Because I would want them to match. But you want to make 2 for each one because these are going to become the wings to our butterfly. So while this one dries, I'm going to show you these ones that I made earlier. And these ones, see what I had here? I put too many colors on it. And you see how it kind of ended up kind of brown, kind of ended up kind of murky looking. Whereas this one, I stuck to my warm colors. I stuck to red, orange, and yellow. And that one's pretty bright, isn't it? So I've got 2 of them that are mostly oranges and reds. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fold them like a fan. So what's a fan fold? Well, I'm going to take and I'm going to go a little bit up, and then I'm going to turn it over and come backwards, and then turn it over and go the other way, and turn it over and go the other way. We're going every other, just like if you were making, right, like a fan to fan your face with. Every other. All right, so there's one that I've got, kind of like an accordion, sometimes we would call it. Now I've got to do that with this one. So I'm going to start that way, and I'm going to flip it over and come this way, back over and go that way, and back and forth every other, changing my directions. All right, so there are my two fans. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on top of each other. I'm going to put them on top of each other. I'm going to pinch in the middle, and now I'm going to grab a pipe cleaner. Now you could also do this with a rubber band. You could do it with tape. You could use construction paper if you don't have a pipe cleaner, but watch what I'm going to do here. All right, so I'm going to take my pipe cleaner, and I'm going to bend it in half, and I'm going to kind of just loop it around. See how I've got my loop here? And now we're going to make the body of my caterpillar. So I'm going to pinch my bottom part, and I'm going to twist it. Twist, twist, twist. And then I got to keep my wings sandwiched in the middle. I'm going to take my top part, and I'm going to twist, but I'm not going to twist all the way up. I'm going to twist, 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 and then I'm going to leave myself my little antennas, right? My little butterfly antennas, and I'm going to curl them. You could even put a bead on these if you wanted to. So now I've got it twisted around, and now I've got to find my wings. So we're gonna spread it out, take our two coffee filters and spread them, kind of fluff them. And there, we've got my butterfly coming about. And you can kind of see how I've got my wings there, and you can kind of spread it however you want. You could hang these in the window if you wanted. I'm going to show you one that I made a little bit earlier when I was practicing. This one has pink and green. And so you could hang these. I mean, they could kind of go in the wind almost a little bit, but really, really pretty, showing our different colors blending together to make a beautiful butterfly. So there's that project. The next one, I was thinking about how our butterflies start out as a caterpillar. And so I'm not going to show you every step of this one. I'm going to let you figure it out. But what I did is I took green construction paper and I cut out a leaf. And then I kind of drew some leaf lines on there. And then I took my hole punch. I took my hole punch, but you could also just kind of poke a hole with like a pen or something. I took my hole punch, and my caterpillar has been eating this leaf. It's been eating this leaf. Yum, yum, yum. Now this one, I just made little curls of paper. Little curls of paper that I stuck down with some tape, and I added some stripes. I had googly eyes that I put on this guy, but you could draw eyes on too. And then I used little pipe cleaner pieces to give him some antennas, but you could also just use plain paper. And so there I've got a yellow and black striped caterpillar. And I started thinking, well, then it goes through metamorphosis, right? It goes through metamorphosis and it becomes a butterfly. So for this one, I had him grow up. I had him grow up and become a butterfly. So I took a really big popsicle stick here. I took a big popsicle stick, and now I made big paper rolls. I made big paper rolls out of yellow, and I drew his black stripes. And then I picked orange for his wings, and I just taped some wings on the back and gave him some wings. And here's his eyes and his antenna, so that we could show that he started out the caterpillar and he became the butterfly. And now I can have him fly around on my popsicle stick. You could even color on the popsicle stick if you wanted to. So I made this one by just curling pieces of paper. I'm going to show you the other one I made. This one I made with pom-poms. So here's again, I cut out my leaf and then I punched some holes to show that he's eaten the leaf. But here I used some pom-pom balls. So I put pom-pom balls on here and I glued on some googly eyes again and gave him some antennas. And then how does my blue pom-pom caterpillar turn into a butterfly? Well, I took my pom-poms over onto my popsicle stick. And now we're on our popsicle stick. And then I gave him some purple wings that I just cut out and taped on. And then I decorated those wings however you want. But again, here's our caterpillar, and through the process of metamorphosis becomes the butterfly. All right, so that's a really fun one. That's kind of, you can get very creative with how you make your caterpillars. You could even do some research with an adult's help. You could see all the different types and designs of what caterpillars look like, and then you could look, what does a certain caterpillar look like, and then what do they look like when they become a butterfly? Do they change colors? Do they look the same? You could do some fun research and kind of do the whole process from caterpillar to butterfly. All right, the next one I was thinking about is how when we go through metamorphosis with Jesus, when we go through metamorphosis, it is like we are saying to God, will you make me like you? And for something to be alike, we say that it's symmetrical. Symmetrical, man, that's a crazy word. Now think about when we were doing our heart craft corner. Remember when we did our heart craft corner last month and we took, to make our hearts, and we took our paper and we folded it in half, and I've got my seam here, right? And then we cut out our heart, and when we opened it up, it was the same on both sides, wasn't it? Well, did you know that the same applies to a butterfly? A butterfly is symmetrical. It's the same on both sides. So here I've taken some black construction paper and I just folded it in half. Now I've got a butterfly template, and I have a link to these in the video description below, but I printed it off. You could be an awesome artist and choose to draw your butterfly. I doubted my skills a little bit, so I went for printing one, all right? So I printed one off, and then I'm gonna fold it in half, and look at how it's the same on both sides, right? If I fold it in half here, my butterfly matches. And now what I'm gonna do is use that as a guide. So I'm gonna open up my symmetrical butterfly, put my black in between, and I'm gonna sandwich it. I'm gonna sandwich it along my line, and now we wanna trace it with our scissors. So you could take a pencil and you could trace around your butterfly first, or you could just hold on really tight or get an adult's help to cut around your butterfly here. Okay, so we're cutting around and around and around, and we're gonna be making our symmetrical butterfly. Another time that we hear maybe the word symmetrical, or maybe in English class, for some of you who are a little older, maybe you've heard of synonyms, right? Synonyms meaning the same, words that are the same in some ways. So symmetrical means that they match each other, they're the same. So when we go through spiritual metamorphosis, we are asking God to make us like him. We want to be the same. We want to have a heart that's similar to Jesus. All right, so now we can get rid of our template. We get rid of our white one. I'm going to move my scraps out of the way, and here is my butterfly. Here's my butterfly, all right? So maybe I want to make his head a little bit rounder because it kind of got a little pointy. And now here we're going to have some paint, okay? So this one, you want to be careful. You want to maybe wear an old shirt or an apron or something. But what we're going to do is we're going to explore symmetry. We're going to explore what happens when we say to God, I want to be like you. So what color should I pick for this butterfly? Well, I think I'm going to do some blue. I think I'm going to do blue. And so I'm going to take and I'm going to make some really globby. I'm using a Q-tip, all right? I'm using a Q-tip and I'm making some globby spots here. I'm putting a lot of paint on those spots, and you'll see why in a second. You kind of want them to be globby, all right? You don't want to make a mess. You don't want to be splattering, but you do want to use a lot of paint. Now I'm going to turn over. I'm going to use another color here, maybe some purple. All right, so now I'm going to put some others here, and you can see I'm making it pretty globby. Whoop, put in the wrong one. Make it really globby. Maybe I want some purple in between. And we're going to use some white next, and I'm going to have to change my Q-tip. Maybe I'll put some purple right there. Okay, now I'm going to put some white. I'm going to take some white and I'm going to do just some dots. I'm going to do some dots around the edge. Butterflies all are so unique and so beautiful, and so are moths, really. And they have special designs on them that can be used for disguise from predators. It can be used as a way to be beautiful to a Mr. or Mrs. Butterfly. Just lots of different designs. They're so unique and so pretty. All right, so now look at this. I put my globby paint on one side only. And now I'm going to fold over, because remember, when we say to Jesus, I want you to be part of me. I want you to live inside my heart. I want you to make me more and more like you. Jesus says, absolutely. And he comes over and we smush and we smush and we smush and we smush. And this can be a little messy. We smush and we smush and we smush. And then we open up and Jesus works on the inside of us, just like when a caterpillar is in the chrysalis through metamorphosis. And then when it breaks out of that chrysalis, oh my goodness, it's the same on both sides, isn't it? It's the same. We get to be the same heart, the same mind as Jesus. All right, so this one has my cool colors on it, and there's my beautiful butterfly. I'll show you the one that I made earlier. This one I made with my orange and some yellow and my white, kind of like a monarch. All right, but these are just a beautiful reminder of what happens in our hearts when we have Jesus inside of us. He says, I want to be the same as you. All right, I'm going to move these to the side. And we're gonna do our very last craft. So this one's probably for some of my older kids out there, but it's a fun one, all right? So we're going to take some paper. I'm gonna take some paper, and now butterflies, where do we see them the most? I see them around flowers. So we're going to draw a habitat for our butterflies. We're going to make a place for them. All right, so for some of you who are younger that want to do this too, this can become a fun backdrop for then having your butterflies come exploring. All right, so this one's going to be what we would call impressionistic art. Impressionistic means it gives the impression of something. And for me, who can't draw super, super awesome, impressionistic is really fun because it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be exact. So here's what we're gonna do. I've got my white paper. I've got some really fun colors here in my paint. You could use all sorts of different paints will work. And what I'm gonna do is I've got a piece of cardboard here, and I'm gonna use it like a paintbrush, and I'm gonna dip it in here, and I'm gonna scrape it across, and I'm gonna give myself some sky. I'm gonna give myself some sky here with some light blue. All right, so we can just scrape it whatever direction we want, kind of just smear it around. We're just giving ourselves a sky for our butterflies to fly through. All right, so if our sky is up here, what needs to come down below? Well, I need some grass, don't I? So now I'm gonna flip over. Actually, I'm going to change so I don't get it all over my hands. I'm going to flip over and I'm going to give myself some grass down here. All right, I'm going to give myself some grass. And using the cardboard kind of gives a cool scrapey texture. And I'm going to use some light green. And we're just going to fill this in. We can go any direction we want. We're mixing it in. We're seeing how our greens mix together. Now, if you wanted to be way more precise and you wanted to explore some really fun art, you could just use a paintbrush and you could be really careful in your painting this meadow scene that we're gonna make here. All right, but here's our meadow. All right, so we've got our sky and we've got our grass down below. And now I need to use something to give myself some stems for my flowers. Okay, so I'm gonna use a popsicle stick again, and I'm gonna use my dark green, and I'm just gonna come across, and I'm gonna draw myself some flower stems. Okay, so you can see I'm giving myself some flower stems, and we wanna go every which way. You know, the Bible talks about how the flowers in the field, they don't care and compare themselves and go, well, I'm not as pretty as so-and-so. Or if only I was a red flower instead of a purple flower. Jesus goes, no, the flowers don't worry as they bend about in the breeze. They just shine and look beautiful because that's who they were made to be. And that's kind of what happens in our hearts through metamorphosis too. I'm going to change colors here. When we've got Jesus living inside of our hearts, all of a sudden, does it matter if so-and-so has the latest and greatest clothes or the fanciest, schmanchiest technology? No. All of a sudden we can operate, we can be in the same field side by side, praising God together because we are all so fearfully and wonderfully made. All right, so there's my flower stems now. And now let's think about some flowers that we can add. So I'm going to start by doing some white puffs. So I'm going to use my Q-tip again, and I'm just going to do some white puffs. And we can put these wherever we want, but you're just going poop, 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 poop. They could almost look like a little bit of like a dandelion after they've puffed out in the fall. Maybe your family isn't a fan of dandelions, but they're still pretty, aren't they? They're still pretty, even if they're considered a weed. So I'm going to put some white down below. Now, I think I want some purple, all right? So I'm going to use my pinky finger, and we're going to make some purple hyacinths here. So I'm going to use my pinky finger, and I'm going to go at the top, and then I'm going to go around a stem. Bloop, 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 bloop. I'm going to go around the top and around the stem. Hyacinths are such a beautiful flower. Okay, and I can kind of pick which stems I want to put it on. I can pick how many little pieces to it I want to make with my pinky. We just want to be very gentle so that we're not smearing and mixing in with the other paint, because then we kind of get some funky colors. Okay. So there's my hyacinths, and now for my last one, I think I'm going to make some red poppies. So I took a clothespin and I pinched like a cotton ball or a pom-pom in it, and I'm going to dip it in some red. I dipped it in some red. So again, you can do this with a paintbrush. You could do it with a Q-tip again. It doesn't have to be this, but I'm doing like 4 little bloops. 4 of them. Kind of make it look like a poppy. All right, how do we feel about our meadow with all of our flowers here? How do we feel about that? And then once it dries, you have the option of taking and maybe putting like a black center on them. You could use a button, you could put a little palm over the top, but there's your flower meadow. And oh, you know what I think we need? I think we need one more thing. We need some yellow. What would a flower meadow be without yellow? So here's what we're gonna do. Let's very carefully, I'm gonna fill my paintbrush with some yellow. I'm gonna fill it with some yellow, and I'm gonna take another popsicle stick, and I'm gonna go like this. I'm just gonna kind of spread it all over and let it kind of splatter on there. Just kind of like how sometimes when you discover some of those flower meadows, think about your black-eyed Susans or your echinacea. Maybe you know a church member or your family where all of these beautiful flowers come up in the spring and the summer, and they just fill the meadow, and they're so beautiful. So I'm just going to kind of spray some yellow across the top there to add a little bit of that. All right, so here is our flower backdrop. It could be used for any of our butterflies. You could even choose to paint some butterflies flying, maybe landing. Maybe you want to draw a caterpillar making its chrysalis, becoming a butterfly. The possibilities are endless. You could turn it into anything you wanted, but here's our beautiful spring meadow, and we're looking forward to spring. We're looking forward to when we get to see the caterpillars and the butterflies. Spring is a wonderful time because it reminds us of rebirth, and that's what Metamorphosis is all about. It is about the rebirth of Jesus inside inside of our hearts. And it's such an amazing opportunity where Jesus is like, I want to live inside of you. I want to make you more and more like me, just like that caterpillar becoming a butterfly. If you're interested in learning more about metamorphosis, I have included a video link down below to some YouTube clips. It is from a documentary called Metamorphosis. And some of your churches or your church schools might actually own the DVD. And it's kind of the science behind the amazing creativity of how God designed butterflies and caterpillars, and about the metamorphosis, the change that happened, and the miracle that that is. So if that's something that interests you, there's some video clips down below for this documentary on metamorphosis, or you can even see your church or your school might own the video also. All right, I hope you have fun doing these crafts. I would love to see pictures of your finished products. My contact info is below. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Have a great day.